My name is Phoebe Atkinson, and I am the curator of this program. Carolyn today is away, so she has asked me to step in as host, which is my pleasure. The Positivity Hour is a collaboration with the Whole Being Institute, of which I'm affiliated, and the JCC Manhattan. And since March 2020, we have been offering and asking these brilliant presenters to step up and share their applied practice of positive psychology. And today we have Nancy Fliss, who is going to be speaking to us. So I will present her right away because she's got a lot to cover with you. And I just know that you're going to be delightfully surprised. And this is going to be very interactive. So off we go. This is also going to be recorded. We're recording now, and we will be sending you the recording on Friday with a follow-up with some of the backup material. The title of our webinar today is called Cairns for Resilience, Creating Yours in Times of Uncertainty. And this is Nancy Fliss. Nancy writes, "A cairn is an impermanent, human-made stack of stones. They have been used to mark a path and to set boundaries. As the global pandemic has challenged our capacity for resilience, we've adapted and found individual ways to move forward. In the darkness, many of us found ways to thrive. We have experimented with new ways of coming together, creatively using technology to fight isolation and build virtual communities. We continue to live in a liminal time. It is a time between what was and what is yet to be. Now we can each take a purposeful pause to look back, examine our experiences, honor our emotions, and acknowledge our grief, to face uncertainty and look forward with hope. In this session, you will be invited to reflect and think about your next steps with discernment and self-efficacy, building a cairn for your path forward." Nancy Fliss is a coach, a mentor, advisor, educator, and a lifelong learner. Her character strengths of honesty, curiosity, creativity, and perseverance have informed and fueled her personal and professional trajectory. Her career has included working with struggling adolescents, higher education teaching and administration, consulting with rapidly growing companies, and building and managing service organizations in the high-tech arena. Today, her passion is assisting people to discern and make choices about their next steps. After retiring from the company that had acquired the firm she had built with her partners, Nancy studied at the Whole Being Institute and became a certified positive psychology coach. She has created meaningful encores to guide people as they navigate their next acts. Welcome, Nancy, to our webinar and our positivity series. It's so wonderful to have you here. I've seen you attend these webinars and workshops for quite a while, so it's lovely now to just have you teach us and share your wisdom and your gifts.
Thank you, Phoebe. And I am eternally grateful to the JCC and the Whole Being Institute, because they were truly my cairns for resilience during the early stages of the pandemic and the lockdown. And so I am now thrilled to have the opportunity to give back. I'd just like to give you a little bit of history about this session. Back in July of 2021, there was a small window where we felt safe after there were vaccinations, before variants and breakthrough infections. And at that time, Michelle Racinko, who's a WBI SIP grad and has also presented during the Positive Psychology Hour, she and I created a 3-day workshop, which we called Cairns After COVID. And the purpose was to enable people to reflect on their experiences and to hold their dark emotions and to experience their grief and to get some exposure to positive psychology concepts and then learn some tools to begin to create a path forward. I'd like to say that that original title, Cairns After COVID, really was wishful thinking, because we now know that we are not after COVID, and what we are now really learning to do is learning how to live with COVID. Michelle and I are currently evolving that 3-day workshop into an online series, and today's session is based on some of that material. I also want to just tell a little quick story. Michelle, who lives in Minnesota, and I met during COVID in a whole being coaching fundamentals class. We felt an immediate connection. And then at some point she mentioned that her son was graduating from law school in New York City in May. And we decided that she and her husband should come to my home in Connecticut and spend the weekend before they went into New York. One of my most cherished memories of the pandemic. And also, Michelle is really one of my cairns for resistance. Oops, not resistance, resilience. Not a Freudian slip. This morning in her virtual yoga class, she invited us to set our intentions for today. And mine is to give myself permission to be human. As a recovering perfectionist, this is an ongoing intention for me. And so, Michelle, thank you. I'd like to start this session with you all by doing a centering and a guided meditation. And so, if you would settle into your chairs, feel your backs being held by the back of your chair. If your feet are on the floor, feel that stability. If you're comfortable, close your eyes. If not, lower your gaze down to the floor. And we're going to do 3 calming breaths. And then I'm going to take you on a short journey. When we finish that journey, you'll have an opportunity to share some of your thoughts. We're going to do breaths where we breathe in through our nose, hold them, and breathe out through our mouth. 3 calming breaths. In, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, out, 2, 3, 4, 5. Again, in through your nose, 2, 3, 4, hold, 1, 2, out through the mouth, 2, 3, 4, 5. Again, in through the nose, 2, 3, 4, hold, out through the mouth, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And now settle in, and you will be starting your journey at the edge of a forest. Everything behind you, the BP time before pandemic, is there. Focus on the people who've been in your life. See the places you've been, the strengths you've used, what you are proud of, the relationships that matter. All that is behind you, you will be taking with you into our journey in the forest. Now, look ahead of you, and it appears dark, but your eyes begin to adjust, and you're seeing individual trees. And you notice that each tree seems to have a special place in it, a place for you to sit and rest. Each tree has a cradle, a hammock, a beanbag chair. Pick your spot. Sit down and pause in the darkness. Smell, listen, feel. Remember the last 20 months. You know in your heart you cannot go backwards. And you begin to realize you can take all that was with you as you go forward. Pay attention as you are pausing in the forest. What are you aware of? What is bubbling up? What do you want? How do you want to be? And what may you want to do? When you are ready, stand up. And in the darkness, your path becomes apparent. As you walk, it feels as if the trees are parting and you are on your own nature-infused yellow brick road. You feel more and more confident of your path with each step you take. And you get to the edge of the forest and you pause again. You savor the path you've just traveled and you get ready to take your first tiny step out of the forest. Get a good solid picture of that step. Hold on to the image and hold on to the feelings that surface and remember your journey. When you are ready, open your eyes. We're going to be breaking into small groups to give you an opportunity to share that experience. But before we do that, I want to give you some perspective around the sharing. Margarita Tarragona is a psychologist who has incorporated narrative practice into her work. She stresses that the ways in which we tell our stories, not just the stories themselves, really impact how we feel and how we think, how we see ourselves, how we relate to others, how we contemplate new possibilities and give meaning to our world. So we're going to have an opportunity to do some storytelling. Interestingly, on Monday, the Wall Street Journal had a short article about research at Cambridge University that shows links between watching live theater and increases in empathy and charity. So hearing and really listening to others' stories, in addition to telling your own, can have an impact on your resilience. So we are going to now take 10 minutes in a small group setting for you to have an opportunity to share your forest journey. You can talk about what you saw when you look back. What did you take with you into the forest? What you became aware of as you sat, and what you'll take with you as you take your step forward. And after we come back from the group, people will have an opportunity to add into the chat what they're going to be taking with them when they leave their forest. And Phoebe is going to magically send us on our Harry Potter journeys to our groups. We'll have 10 minutes to chat among yourselves. Please try to make sure everyone who wants to speak has an opportunity to. And then Phoebe will magically bring us back to continue on our journey.
Okay, off we go. So you'll have a prompt and you can accept it, and you're going to be finding yourself in a room with some fellow travelers here, and we will bring you back in 10 minutes. Off you go. Welcome back, everyone.
All righty. Well, I'd like to invite anyone who would like to share with the larger group something that they're going to take with them from the forest.
Into the chat, Nancy?
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, please. If you would write it in the chat, which will also be available for people with the recording. Okay. So I'm going to, here
we have
I'm going
people.
to
People are
some,
typing in, Nancy.
Yes, it takes a little while to type. I understand.
They took connection and gratitude and joy. And Amanda says that we can be kinder to ourselves when we look at the ways we share our stories. Anne says wisdom, trust, clarity, something new. I was learning something new. So lots of interesting discoveries in those
Wonderful.
breakout rooms.
And so what you see ahead of you on the slide is one possible cairn path. And what I want to invite you to think about is that we will each create our own cairns with our own building blocks. In our guided meditation, you were invited to a place where you took a pause. And I want to take a moment to stress the power of the pause. That is when we can feel a sense of self-efficacy and set an intention and make a choice. The pause is truly one of our tools of resilience. Now, positive psychology really goes further than resilience. It enables people to thrive. Back in the late 90s, Martin Seligman, who is considered the father of positive psychology, in his inaugural address to the American Association of Psychologists, said that psychologists need to study what makes people happy. He went on to say that psychology was half-baked. We had baked the part about mental illness, but the other side is unbaked, the side of strength, the side of what we're good at. And over the past 20 plus years, there has been an explosion in researchers focusing in this area. Seligman worked with his colleague, Christopher Peterson, to develop a list of those human strengths through a survey called Values in Action. And many of you have had the opportunity to explore your strengths. And if you haven't, we will send you a link to the Via Character Strength survey, which will allow you to see those strengths that come naturally to you. But what's really interesting about those strengths, it's not that resilient people possess a specific set of character strengths, but rather they have a sense of what their strengths are and can lean into them when facing adversity and in our journey to what Seligman has coined flourishing. A second tenet of positive psychology comes from Barbara Fredrickson. And she says flourishing goes beyond happiness or satisfaction with life. True, people who flourish are happy, but that's not the half of it. Beyond feeling good, they're also doing good and adding value to the world, which further brings meaning into their lives. And that meaning brings them further positive emotions to build in on themselves. Joy sparks the urge to play. Interest sparks the urge to explore. Commitment sparks the urge to savor and integrate. It becomes a recurring cycle, and broadening of one's mindset is the basis for her view of how you can be resilient. The broadened mindset builds on individuals' resources, physical, intellectual, social, and psychological. And you can build those reserves for coping. So what I find so fabulous about this picture of a cairn is the helping hand at the top. And for me, that is another key tenet in building resilience, that it's okay to ask for, to need, and to accept help. We all often are afraid to remember that. Oops, I think we jumped a second slide, sorry. I clicked too hard. So another real resilience tool is holistic thinking. How often do you catch yourself saying, yes, I really want to blah, 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 but, and you stop yourself? I invite you each to take a moment to think of your most favorite or often used yes, but sentence. Yes, I want to get stronger, but I don't have time to exercise. Yes, I want to develop a daily meditation practice, but I don't have time to do that. I invite you to reframe that sentence, and instead of saying yes, but, begin to say yes, and. Yes, I want to establish a meditation practice, and I know that it won't be easy for me. And I'm going to start with a once-a-week practice on Saturday mornings. Tiny steps. How can I get myself 1% closer to my goal? And simultaneously acknowledging the challenges, which also gives you an opportunity for self-compassion, giving yourself a break and holding yourself accountable. Holistic thinking allows you to acknowledge and honor multiple realities simultaneously. And so during this period of the pandemic, we have all been living with our individual and collective grief during this time. I would like to suggest that you can simultaneously feel that grief and also begin to allow in feelings of gratitude. Yes, I am still devastated by grief and loss, and I would like to take a tiny step forward. Today, I will share something that I am grateful for. And so if you feel comfortable in sharing, if you type into the chat something that you are grateful for today. I am grateful for the opportunity to give back and to be with all of you.
And Nancy, we have some chats coming in. I'm immensely grateful for my children and the women who have lifted me up in my life and in my career. There's opportunities that lie ahead, gratitude for the JCC and the Whole Being Institute and this positivity series. That's Rabbi Orenstein, who is a speaker on a regular basis. She'll be back in December, and Ann Imick as well. I'm grateful leaving the session today with my own Cairn. And Ellen says, I'm accepting that I am not alone and I am enough. Another one says, I am grateful to take part in these sessions and thank you. Grateful to use a Zoom platform for self-care, and just think about, Zoom even, 18 months ago or so, we were not as familiar, and now we are using these different ways to take care of ourselves and to connect in community. There you go, Nancy. There's that prompt. Oh, here's a few more. I'm grateful for the JCC Positive Psychology series and the structure it provides to my days and weeks, and for being part of this community of seekers. Another one, having my 3 pets, Budgie, Finch, and Chinchilla around me. Yay for pandemic pets. Grateful for the rabbi and her inspiration. Grateful for contemplation. Yes, we have had some amazing contributors in our community. Very special.
You're all giving me the chills. So what's amazing is the incredible power of practicing gratitude. And the research tells us that people who practice gratitude have stronger immune systems and lower blood pressure. They have higher levels of positive emotions, more joy, optimism, and happiness. And they act with more generosity and compassion. And they feel less lonely and isolated. Incredible stuff. So, closely related to holistic thinking is the character strength of hope. So I'd like to do a quick little experiment. If everyone would look up on the picture in the upper left-hand corner and think about what you see. Do you first see a profile of a man or a half of a frontal view? Do you see them both? Now, if you look down to the mountain range and the water, staring straight ahead, and then slowly turn your head to the left, putting your ear down to your shoulder. Do you now see the mother and child in prayer pose? Hope is a shift in perception. Dan Tomasulo teaches us about learned hopefulness, and that is a belief that we can influence the future, real self-efficacy. I'm going to quickly share a few myths about hope. It's a myth that hope is purely a positive emotion. Hope is the same as faith. Either you have hope or you don't. Not true. The facts are that hope is the only character strength that actually requires negativity or uncertainty to be activated. Hope is informed by our beliefs, and hope can be activated, regulated, and facilitated by positivity. So there are behaviors that are very common to high hope people, and I'm sure you've all observed them. They look for possibilities. They notice the good. They cultivate positivity. They use their strengths. They adjust goals. They engage with purpose, and they cherish others. I'd like to take a moment to tell a short story about hope. How many of you have heard of, and you can just raise your hand, the book that's titled Hope is a Verb?
There's a few hands, yeah.
A few hands, okay. This is a memoir by Amy Downs. And in the book jacket, she writes, "I was about to die and realized I never truly lived." In 1995, Amy Downs was working as a teller for the Federal Employees Credit Union located in the Federal Building in Oklahoma City. And she talks about her life changing in an instant. She heard a boom and darkness enveloped her, and she went into a 3-story free fall. She talks about being entombed in concrete for over 6 hours and begging God to give her another chance. And then she was pulled from the rubble. She went ahead, embracing that second chance. She went back to college. She earned a degree. She lost over 200 pounds and became an Ironman triathlete. And today, she is the CEO of that same credit union. She goes on to tell us that sometimes we all need a wake-up call. Hers was a bombing. Yours might be a pandemic, or your reflections on your life as it is now. Amy Downs says that through her experience and subsequent transformation, she learned about the power of living a purposeful life. And from there, you can enable yourself to achieve your wildest dreams. That is hope. The importance of meaning and purpose helps us go beyond surviving to thriving and flourishing. Hope is a tool for resilience.
And Nancy just pointed out, Jen Groves, a wonderful speaker for our series, highlights post-traumatic growth and the elements that she demonstrated in that story.
Yes, thank you. So beginner's mind is related to the shift in perception that is necessary for hope. We all start off with a negativity bias. It comes from survival skills. Our minds protectively go to the negative to help us survive. But we can all train our minds. The study of neuroplasticity shows impacts on the brain of positive thoughts. And Barbara Fredrickson's broaden and build theory explains the additive effects of positive thoughts. A way to start this is with beginner's mind. And so during my early pandemic days, I took isolated walks. And one thing I made sure to do every day was to stop at least once during that walk to really examine something in nature. My favorites were the early morning dew drops on leaves. and I would stop and watch them travel down the leaf and gather together and make a big drop and watch them fall down to the ground. And it was amazing. And it was as if I had never seen anything like that before. I invite you all each day to take the time to stop, to pause, and look at something in a new way. So related to beginner's mind is the importance of imagination. And it was really interesting. This weekend, David Brooks wrote an opinion piece in the New York Times about how imagination helps you perceive reality and also try on other realities. It helps you predict possible futures and experience other viewpoints, more broaden and build. Dr. Laura King originated the best possible self-exercise in which people are invited to imagine some point in the future, either that a particular goal has been met at that point, or expansively, possibly you're at a time when all your life goals have been accomplished. They are then invited to write for 10 minutes about that experience. Stream of consciousness, about how they feel, whatever comes to mind. No editing. They're then invited to repeat that same exercise over several days. The person then reads over what they have written and reflects on the experience. It has been repeatedly shown that that exercise increases optimism and one's sense of well-being, and that there is actually a shift in mindset that occurs due to the increased optimism. This shift in mindset is known as growth mindset, also a cornerstone to resilience. In the packets that'll be sent to you when after the session, you'll get a best possible self-exercise for you to try and experience. I invite you all to try it. And then if anyone wants to share their reflection on the experience, I'll be happy to read them. You'll get my email address at the end of the session as well.
Nancy,
Yes.
Just to pause for a moment when you were talking about savoring, one of our participants wrote that in Boca Raton, the Murakami Gardens has a terrific program, Strolling for Wellness, taking an important pause and noticing surroundings and journaling about it. So all of these wonderful interventions, just as the David Brooks, Ivory Tower to Main Street, it's just all coming into more and more access. These researchers, the applied practice, there's another example of that.
Yes, it's the synchronicity is unbelievable. Okay, to finish up, I want to briefly talk about 3 more building blocks of resilience. Values, living a meaningful life and having a sense of purpose, and living consistently with one's values builds a sense of well-being and primes the resilience pump. Also, as we discussed, being aware of and using and developing one's character strengths creates a foundation for intentional action. What I'd like to do is focus a moment on the final tool, which is passion. Think for a moment, what are you passionate about? What brings you joy? Now, think about what you can do today to take one small step to live more passionately, to feel more joy, to feel completely engaged with life. Think about what one small step you might be able to do. And as you're thinking and chatting, I'm going to share my step from last night. I was busily practicing and preparing my presentation and getting tired and realized I needed a break. And so my husband and I rewatched the last episode of season 2 of Ted Lasso. And that made me smile and brought me joy. He and that show are unbelievably poignant and joyful. And he talked in that last session about the team's secret sauce. It is grit, determination, and most of all, belief. So watching Ted Lasso is it for me. Phoebe, anything for people to share?
No, actually, but I'm sure with an invitation they would. Again,
oh, I'm sorry. I thought I had said that.
Yes, you did. Yeah, so type into the chat something that brings you joy, something that might just be a micro moment that activates some of these positive emotions, such as Nancy's example.
Okay, I see things coming. It takes a moment.
Right. Driving with the windows down. Ooh, wonderful. Connecting with my kids by engaging in what they love to do, showing interest in that. Going outside, right? All of these powerful choices. Again, the compound effect, how they all build up. Nature, animals, singing. Yay. I'm grateful for allowing myself to have this experience today with the JCC and the JCC. Yes. Very much thanks that, just all these resources, peace-filled, joy-filled family interactions, service, and being in nature, and also feeling the sun, time in the sunshine, walking near a river on a trail.
Wonderful. Mm-hmm. Again, I get the chills from all of you. So, I think, yeah. I'd like to suggest that you already all have tools for resilience in your toolkit. You know about narrative practice and telling your stories. You may have already experienced holding dual emotions and cherishing them. I'm sure you all know about being compassionate for others, and I'm hoping you're learning to be self-compassionate as well and savoring moments. The relationships and connections that bind you. Opening up and looking at things with beginner's minds and your imagination. Giving yourself permission to reframe and experience hope. Living a life according to your values, being aware of your character strengths and your passions. As I mentioned, you will get a resource email at the end of this with the PowerPoint and links to a lot of materials. Please remember that finding your path forward always starts with taking one tiny step. And what I'd like to do is end this with the words of John O'Donohue, one of my most favorite poets, and his poem, For a New Beginning. In out of the way places of the heart, where your thoughts never think to wander, this beginning has been quietly forming, waiting until you were ready to emerge. For a long time, it has watched your desire, feeling the emptiness growing inside you, noticing how you willed yourself on, still unable to leave what you had outgrown. It watched you play with the seduction of safety and the gray promises that sameness whispered, and heard the waves of turmoil rise and relent, and wondered, would you always live like this? Then the delight when your courage is kindled and out you stepped into new ground, your eyes young again with energy and dream, a path of plenitude opening before you. Though your destination is not yet clear, you can trust the promise of this opening. Unfurl yourself into the grace of beginning. That is one of your life's desire. Awaken your spirit to adventure. Hold nothing back. Learn to find ease in risk, and soon you will be home in a new rhythm. For your soul senses the world that awaits you.
Oh, thank you so much, Nancy. What a beautiful way to bring this to a close today as you gift us with this poem of John O'Donohue, and as you have reframed and opened up possibilities for us to really consider using these resilience tools and creating our own cairns. So thank you.
We have a few minutes left. I was hoping that we did, for any comments in the chat or questions.
Yes.
And I have one more thing that I want to share. This weekend, I had the opportunity to be part of a workshop on the beach of the Long Island Sound, and it was called The Stone Warrior. And it was run by a gentleman who has used making cairns part of his healing from his cancer journey, and has written a book about that process called The Stone Warrior. And he shared that with us. And then we all went out onto the beach and gathered stones and twigs and whatever made sense to us, and found spots to build our own cairns, and then sat and meditated on those structures that we built. And then 30 of us came together and shared what the experience was like for us. And I can't tell you the unbelievable sense of power and possibility that came over me as part of that experience. And so I encourage you to look at the Stone Warrior, explore, build your cairns.
Nancy, thank you so much. Creating the possible ritual for us, because really what you're describing are creating these sacred rituals. So the question is, it wasn't hearing clearly what was being built. These were cairns, right? These
yes,
were...
exactly. In permanent piles of stones and twigs and whatever you created to set your path and intention.
Yeah. So one thing before we end today, Nancy, one of the comments was about, these are practices, right? These are not just, as Megan McDonough, who runs the Whole Being Institute, one and done, right? These are daily practices. They are with all the permission to be human and to understand that we have ups and downs, but that we can be very proactive in terms of intentional activities that we set in place every day. And there is a compound effect. So the idea is that we can have sometimes difficult feelings, or things maybe are not moving as quickly. We can always turn to something and certainly you've given us quite a repository today of tools to tap into. So Also, I want to say to everyone, there's lots of thank yous coming in. We have a spectacular speaker again on Thursday. It is called the 360-Degree Project. It's a photographic journey with Dr. Mary Halpin, and it's about how she used her VIA strengths, her character strengths, to create a visual journey that illustrates how teaching comes in all kinds of forms and sizes. This will not be recorded. It is live on Thursday. It is her personal photography. I really recommend coming. She's exceptional. And so what a beautiful way to continue our conversation this week. And then next week, the Thanksgiving week on Tuesday, we will have Yarrow, who's a specialist in gratitude, and she'll get us ready for the holiday. Nancy, thank you. Thank you for your visuals and all the ways that you taught us today. And it really reminds us that these practices that you're teaching us really need to be embodied. And you certainly embody everything that you taught today.
And thank you for giving me the opportunity.
You're welcome. And there is one chat here that says, I saw a few cairns on the wall of the path to our last free beach in my area at the Jersey Shore. I saw them also in the Yukon of Alaska, inspiring. So cairns all around. Who knows now what will people will be noticing and or creating for themselves. And also another person says, thank you. Thank you for the JCC, for the fortifying to wade in these positive psychology waters and to take a walk in the forest with everyone today based on what you shared. So much thanks coming into you, wisdom, clarity, so much calmness that you also communicated today, such profound teaching with clarity and hope. So we hope to see you all on Thursday again. You'll be receiving Nancy's slides on Friday with her recording and also her contact information. If you want to follow up on that best possible future self, that wonderful exercise that can really help to build your optimism. And Nancy has made herself available to receive your follow-up inquiries. So you'll be getting that information on Friday. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.
See you soon again. Bye-bye.